Hello my friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Liv, or Olivia if you've never been here before, and today we're going to be doing a good old-fashioned book haul. So I have about 45 books to share with you guys, and I did not realize I had accumulated that many books, but some of them are from you guys, some of them are from publishers, and I'm just excited to share with you a bunch of new releases and a bunch of new books that I can now put on my shelves that I am very excited about. I have fantasy books, romance books, mystery thrillers, cozy mysteries, graphic novels, manga, you name it, and it's probably in this book haul, so I hope you'll stick around through this whole video. So let's just go ahead and dive right into the books. We are going to start with the biggest amount of books that I have, which is the fantasy genre. Probably not a surprise, starting us with Fourth Wing, which is also probably not a surprise to you guys because this has taken over the Bookdernet, Bookstagram, Booktube. This book has absolutely blown up in the past month, and I was able to get like the first edition. I got it a couple days before this came out. I've only read one chapter, and so far so good. But all I know is this has Hunger Games, kind of dark academia, but with dragons. So all of those things sound like the perfect wrap up to me. I feel like this is just very much an Olivia book. So I'm praying that I'm not in the minority and I don't end up hating this one, because everybody, and I literally mean everybody, loves this. I haven't seen a single bad review. Obviously, I had to see what all of the hype was about. The next book I have is an adult historical fantasy mystery called The Last Heir to Blackwood Library. I have never read anything by this author before, but I have had a very big interest in her work. I feel like this is also another book that's just right up my alley. In post-World War I England, a young woman inherits a mysterious library and must untangle its powerful secrets. This one I do know has gothic vibes, which is right up my alley because our main character somehow inherits this big estate with this magical library. So I'm very interested to see what she unravels and what she discovers about her family, and if there's books involved, a library, and it's magical, I mean, I'm obviously gonna love it. The next book I have is In the Lives of Puppets by TJ Klune. It says A Real Boy and His Wooden Heart, No Strings Attached. I loved House in the Cerulean Sea. I have yet to read Under the Whispering Door, but I will 100% get to it. This I got from the publisher, so thank you so much, Tor. But it says, inspired by the adventures of Pinocchio, In the Lives of Puppets is part Swiss Family Robinson, part Wally, and all heart. TJ Klune invites you deep into the heart of a peculiar forest and on the extraordinary journey of a family assembled from spare parts. So it's kind of weird because it sounds like sci-fi, but it takes place like in this forest. But what I really love about his books is they always have found family in them, and this one sounds like it's going to have the same. So I'm just really excited to jump into another TJ Klune. House in the Cerulean Sea was so atmospheric and so profound, and this one just sounds like it's going to have another great message to it, so I'm really looking forward to getting to this one. The next young adult fantasy I picked up is Divine Rivals by Rebecca Ross. I have not yet read anything by this author, but I know she's just going to be a new favorite for me. This is another one of those books where Bookstagram made me do it. Everybody has loved this book, and it's definitely piqued my curiosity because while it's fantasy, it does talk about gods, and I think it's historical. There's a war between the gods, but there is also two people that are falling in love. I think they're both journalists, but they write love notes back and forth, and I just don't know what to expect from this one. It sounds like a very unique idea. I don't really know how to explain what this one is about, but it definitely piqued my interest because it sounds very original. I've also heard Rebecca Ross tends to write very dark stories, which I'm also on board with. I think this one may end up being a duology if I'm not mistaken, but overall I'm just very excited to finally dive into a Rebecca Ross. The next book I have, which I guess you could technically describe this as fantasy because it is Greek gods, that is Stone Blind by Natalie Haynes. I really love the backstory or the story of Medusa, even though I'm definitely not a super Greek mythology fan. Like, my knowledge of it is very little, but I've heard Natalie Haynes' writing is very easy to understand, and if I'm going to get into Greek mythology, it just makes sense that I would start with this one. It looks like we have multiple different perspectives, which I'm assuming are different gods. I am totally out of the loop with Greek mythology, but thankfully I do have friends who are familiar with it, so if I'm confused, I can just reach out to them and ask. But I kind of just wanted to expand my reading taste with this one and just see what I think about it, because who knows, maybe this year will be the year that I finally get into Greek mythology. The next book I have here is also by Rebecca Ross, which I didn't realize she had so many backlist books that I just didn't connect were the same author. Dreams Lie Beneath apparently has magicians, but our main character's job is also to record all the townspeople's nightmares, which sounds crazy and really spooky. I've heard this be compared to Strange the Dreamer by Laini Taylor, which I also really loved, but this just sounds a little bit darker. Like I said, I feel like Rebecca Ross could possibly be a new favorite author for me, so I guess I'm just collecting all of her books without even reading them yet. The next young adult fantasy I have is Where Dreams Descend by Janella Angelis, and truth be told, I've actually owned this book in ARC form since before it even came out, but my friend Kendal was selling this version. I don't know if it's like the Fairy Loot edition, but either way, I think it's stunning, especially these end pages are just so cool, and anything that has to do with a circus or magicians, I know I'm automatically gonna like. I don't remember what this one is about, but I've still had an interest in it throughout all these years. I would really love to get to this one sooner rather than later. I know it is a duology, and I feel like I could really love this one, so I need to pick it up sooner rather than later. The next book I have is Carissa Broadbent's Daughter of No Worlds, and truth be told, I actually bought these two at the same exact time without even realizing that they were the same exact author. So I've already read this one, gave it 5 stars, absolutely loved it. So I'm really glad that I actually have this one on hand because now I'm obsessed with this author. I do not know what this one is about, but this is just one of her other series. I think this one and this series are the only 2 that she currently has out right now. So now I'm just glad that I have a backlog of more of her books whenever I feel like picking them up. But what initially sparked my interest in this author or this series was I've heard it's very much like Sarah J. Maas, and I only have a few of the Throne of Glass series left to read before I've read all of her books, so I feel like this is gonna be the next best thing, hopefully, especially because Serpent was so good and I can see how people compare them because her writing is so addicting. But I'm just very glad that I have this on hand, and I actually really love this cover. I typically don't love people on the cover, but this one is absolutely stunning. So because I read this one and I loved it so much, I decided to pick up the second one, which came out literally days after I finished the first. Not only that, but I decided to buy the novella, which you're supposed to read before you pick up the second book. So needless to say, this is my new obsession. I now own most of her books, if not half of them, and I'm really excited about it because I haven't been this obsessed with like a fantasy series in a long time, which actually shocks me because this is the first ever vampire book I've ever read. But seriously, I'm obsessed, and it's only a matter of time before I finally pick up this little novella. Another book that I have literally seen everywhere non-stop is The Foxglove King by Hannah Witten. I know nothing about this book, but let me tell you, when I read this little blurb at the front, it's absolutely what sold me. In this gilded, gothic, and romantic new epic fantasy series, a young woman's secret power to raise the dead plunges her into the dangerous world of the sainted king's royal court. So yeah, that sounds dark, that sounds amazing, like it just sounds so creepy, and even from the cover, I kind of get those creepy vibes, so I'm very much looking forward to this. As you can tell, I have very much gotten into romantasy. I never really used to be a romance person, but ever since last year, I started reading romance books, but I also still love fantasy, so I feel like it's just the perfect combination time for me now. So I've definitely been accumulating more romantasy books, including this one, and I also think this one would be perfect going into fall as well. The next newer release that I am so stoked to get to, this is probably high up, like top 5 of my anticipated releases this year, is The Book That Wouldn't Burn by Mark Lawrence. He also wrote, I think, the Red Sister trilogy, which I have not read. This will be my first Mark Lawrence, but I've heard really great things, and this just sounds so perfect, not only because it takes place in this gorgeous library and it's surrounded by books, but I've heard his writing is just absolutely phenomenal. Two strangers find themselves connected by a vast and mysterious library containing many wonders and still more secrets. This is about a younger boy and a younger girl, and somehow their lives interweave, or they just come together to do something, because in the synopsis it says people don't know who they are, but they're about to know who they are. So something big and explosive is going to happen in this book, and I'm so here for it. It's definitely a big chunky book. It's almost 600 pages, but hopefully with the audio it will just make for a great experience. I'm excited to dive into Mark Lawrence and see what he's all about. This next book that I picked up was heavily inspired by Legends and Lattes, because right after I finished that book I was doing all this research on more cozy fantasy books, and this one just so happened to pop up on my Goodreads recommended feed one day. It's called The House Witch, and I think there's at least 2 books in this series out right now. A heartwarming and humorous blend of fantasy, romance, and mystery, featuring a witch with domestic powers and the royal household he serves. First of all, you guys know I love witchy vibes. This looks like the perfect cozy fantasy that also has food involved, so I cannot wait to see what all happens in this book. I'm not exactly sure of the plot, or if this is just more of like a fun slice of life fantasy, but I've been hearing pretty good things about it, so I'm excited going into the fall to see what I think of this one. Now we're going to be diving into some of the contemporary books or romance books that I have picked up, starting us with Daisy Jones and the Six. Yes, I read this long before the TV series came out, but I got my copy from the library, and so it was high time that I owned this gorgeous, stunning book. I absolutely adore this story. I'm definitely not one that's super into celebrities as the main character, and I'm not super interested necessarily in music as an element in stories, but you guys know Taylor Jenkins Reid knows how to write an emotional book, and I am just so happy that I finally own this. It's an absolutely stunning cover. It's like this light blue on the inside, but if you guys have not read this yet, or if you've not read a Taylor Jenkins Reid, what are you doing? You should definitely give this one a shot. So I'm very excited to one day finally reread this now that I have the physical copy. The next book I picked up is Georgie All Along by Kate Clayborn. I kept seeing this one. I think it was a book of the month, but also everyone on Bookstagram seems to love it. I think this is also a little bit more contemporary versus romance, because our main character Georgie is a personal assistant, but then I think she quits her job and kind of goes on this whole journey of self-discovery, and she ends up being like a roommate with this male, and I'm not exactly sure how that whole situation comes to be, but this just sounds really cute and really heartfelt, and honestly the cover kind of got to me because it's so bright, and I don't know, I've just been hearing a lot of friends that I know that have actually cried over this book, so it just piqued my curiosity because obviously I wanted to see what all the hype was about. The next 2 books I'm going to talk about together because they are both Abby Jimenez books. We have The Happy Ever After Playlist and Life is Too Short. These 2 books are actually ones that I haven't owned yet, so now I can gladly say I own all of Abby Jimenez's books, and I'm so stoked about it because she's basically my new favorite romance author of all time. If you have not picked up an Abby Jimenez yet, please do. This is the second after The Friend Zone in the Friend Zone series, and this is number 3, so please read these in order if you are going to read any by her. She does write romance series, not just standalone books, so highly recommend picking these up or picking up an Abby Jimenez in general if you haven't yet, but I'm so glad to own all of her books now because I just needed these. Another author whose books that I had to own more of because I recently read When in Rome by Sarah Adams, and I absolutely fell in love with her writing and how cute this story is. So of course I had to pick up Practice Makes Perfect, which is the second one in the series. I also decided to pick up The Cheat Sheet, which is a sports romance, and I believe the guy is a football player and the girl is a ballerina or a dancer. I've never really read a sports romance except for My Phony Valentine by Courtney Walsh, but she also has another backlist series that is set in Charleston, and the first one is called The Match. This book is about a single dad and his daughter has some type of disability, but our main character, she owns a service dog business, and so her job is to assign a dog to this younger girl, and it's in Charleston and it sounds perfect for summer, and the single dad trope just sounds so cute. I don't know if I've read anything like that before, and it sounds like a grumpy sunshine possibly, like the girl sounds kind of grumpy. I love these covers. I live near Charleston and I just feel like I'm going to be able to visualize this so well. So there you have it. I now own 4 Sarah Adams books and I have no regrets. Moving on to another book that has taken Bookstagram and BookTube by storm is Happy Place by Emily Henry. This is also my book club choice for my Patreon, which I cannot wait to discuss with you guys, but it's obvious because of my love for Emily Henry that I would pick this up the day it came out, and I really did love this one. I definitely don't know if it's my favorite Emily Henry, but I absolutely love this cover. It is such a stunning pink. For obvious reasons, I had to pick this one up. I also have Meet Me at the Lake by Carly Fortune. I'm not gonna lie, I didn't love Every Summer After, but I have heard that people who loved Every Summer After weren't a huge fan of this one, so I'm hoping because I didn't love Every Summer After, I will love this one, if that makes any sense. I don't know much about it, but I really just want to give this author another shot because I really did love the writing and the romance just in general. It just looks and sounds like the perfect summery book. So I'm hoping to get to this one sometime soon, kind of see where I fall on the spectrum, and hopefully this one turns out better for me than Every Summer After. My book of the month choice for May ended up being The Bodyguard by Katherine Senner. I never thought I would pick up anything by this author, but this is another book that I just keep seeing people talk about, and a lot of my friends actually really love Katherine Senner. This one, by the synopsis, just sounds like it's going to be so quirky but so fun. The girl is actually the bodyguard and the guy is actually a superstar or a singer, and he is going home to his small town, and I guess he has a stalker, and so she pretends to be his girlfriend. And I don't love the fake dating trope, but it sounds like it's gonna be a really good time, and I do own another Katherine Senner book, so I feel like if I love this one I can read the other book that I own. And yeah, I am just on this romance journey kind of figuring out which romance authors are for me. Speaking of new romance authors, I also have a Lynn Painter book called Better Than the Movies that my friend Rachel sent me. She loves Lynn Painter, so of course I'm gonna give her a shot. I don't know anything about this, but I know it's a young adult romance, and I think it is childhood friends to lovers, which sounds perfect for me. That's like my favorite trope. I just love when it's a little bit more realistic in romance books where they're friends before they become lovers. So I don't know what the theme of this is. I'm seeing a magical prom. Yeah, we will just go into this and see what happens. This next one I am so excited about, called The Summer of Broken Rules. I actually meant to read this last summer. I don't remember if it came out last year, but I heard nothing but great things. But what I really love about this is it's about a girl that falls in love with, I think, a groomsman, but they go to this wedding on the coast, or a family wedding of some sort, and their family actually has a game called Assassin that will take place during the week of these wedding festivities. And I've heard there's Taylor Swift references, and this just sounds really adorable. I love a good romance, but especially when there's a little bit more meat to it, like this competition they are talking about. It sounds really family oriented and just super sweet, so I am highly anticipating that I will love this one. Diving into our cozy mysteries, I have Buried in a Good Book by Tamara Berry. Best-selling thriller author Tess Harrow and her teenage daughter Gertrude need a fresh start. Now that Tess's divorce is final, the best place for her and Gertie to heal and reconnect is the rustic cabin in the woods that Tess inherited from her late grandfather. Between the beautiful pond on the property, the majestic mountain views, and the peaceful forest, it should be a relaxing getaway. But they've barely made it through the door when an explosion shakes the cabin and it's suddenly raining fish parts, and is that a human arm? I love the fact that our main character is an author, because who doesn't love a bookish cozy mystery? But by the synopsis, it sounds really quirky, but also just really funny and such a good time, and I am totally here for it. I think there's 2 or 3 other books now in the series, so hopefully if I love this one, I am just gonna be reading these all summer long. I also have The Last Word, a Books by the Bay mystery by Ellery Adams, which I believe is number 2 or 3 in this series, which was given to me by one of you guys, so thank you so much. But this sounds again like another perfect summery cozy mystery. This one I'm so curious about. I'm probably gonna buy the first and second, but this one sounds like it could be really good as a standalone as well, so I'm very excited to try out a new series. I also have one of my anticipated reads of the year, which is Vera Wong's Unsolicited Advice for Murderers. I loved Dial A for Aunties by this same author. This is about an older lady named Vera who owns a tea shop and one day discovers a dead body when she goes to open up the store. So she decides to take it upon herself to solve this mystery, and I feel like it's just gonna be such a funny time that makes me laugh out loud, and I am so ready for it. This next book I have heard very few people ever talk about, but this is one book that I would describe as an Olivia book because it has so many good buzzwords, and that is A Dreadful Splendor by B.R. Myers. The back says, in this ghoulishly fun gothic murder mystery, brimming with romance, betrayals, and chills, a fake spiritualist is summoned to hold a seance for a bride who died on the eve of her wedding. But as nefarious secrets are revealed, the line between hoax and haunting blurs. This sounds a lot like the London Seance Society by Sarah Penner, but take it up to the next spooky level, and I loved London Seance, so I feel like this has the potential for sure to be a 5-star because you have mystery, you have ghosts, you have gothic, you have romance. There's just so many things in this that I feel like are going to make it a 5-star book, so here's to hoping that it is as good as it sounds. The next mystery thriller I have, which is a little bit more horror-ish, and I actually gave it almost 5 stars, is The Last Word by Taylor Adams. This is one of the wildest rides I have ever been on reading a book in a very long time. This is the perfect book written for us as bookish people and book reviewers because this surrounds our main character who ends up writing a 1-star review on Amazon of a book that she really does not like that was suggested to her by her neighbor. And a lot goes downhill and a lot happens in this book that I'm not even gonna hint at, not even gonna say anything, but just know that this is a little bit horror-ish. Like I said, it's definitely gory, it's outrageous, there's language. I mean, if you read any Taylor Adams books before, like No Exit, I feel like you'll know what to expect, but this one was nuts. It was absolutely crazy. I could not put it down. This next book I also feel like would be perfect for fall is Death of a Bookseller by Alice Slater, a novel of suspense, and the biggest reason why I picked this one up is it's blurred by Catriona Ward and also Catherine Ryan Howard. I don't think this is a debut book, but obviously this book is surrounded by a bookseller, and Roach, which is a very interesting name. I believe she owns this bookstore and she loves listening to true crime podcasts. I think she ends up hiring someone who ends up turning up dead, and it's giving me like quirky, kind of spooky vibes, but also cozy mystery at the same time. So I'm definitely going into this one completely blind. This could end up being 5 stars. I hope I'm right. But overall, I'm just excited to give a brand new author a shot. The last mystery thriller I have is The Chateau by Jacqueline Goldis, which, can we appreciate this stunning cover, like the hot pink with the creepy estate? Oh, this just sounds like my perfect vibe because I love a good Haunting of Hill House or creepy house. Welcome to picturesque Provence, where the lady of the chateau, Seraphine, has opened its elegant doors to to her granddaughter Darcy and 3 friends. 20 years earlier, the 4 girlfriends studied abroad together in France and visited the old woman on the weekends, creating the group's deep bond. But why this sudden invitation? Amid winery tours, market visits, and fancy dinners overlooking olive groves and lavender fields, it becomes clear that each woman has a hidden reason for returning to the estate all these years. Then, following a wild evening celebration, Seraphine is found brutally murdered. So this sounds so good, so intriguing. I feel like if you are a fan of Big Little Lies or Pretty Little Liars, that maybe some of those vibes will be in this book. At least that's what I'm hoping to get from it, but make it creepy. So I'm really intrigued by this one, and I'm also going to be reading it for Savannah from Riveting Reads Book Club for the month of June. So if you're interested in this book, you should definitely join us for the book club discussion. Now we are going to dive into our graphic novels and manga, which I have accumulated quite a bit, which is good because I think I've read the majority, if not all, of the graphic novels that I own. The first one being Garlic and the Witch by Britt Paulson. I read Garlic and the Vampire and really loved it. It was so cute and had great anxiety representation in it, and the art style is just so sweet and so cute. There's very little words, but I love the color palette and the art style. It's just a really cute, sweet, and short middle grade series. I don't know how many there is going to be in the series, but this is the second one. All of them are like garden vegetables and they are friends. It's kind of like a found family trope, and it's just so cute. I love the friendship. I love a little bit of those spooky vibes, but not overly. It's more like cute, cozy fantasy spooky vibes. I could never find this in the store because the series is quite popular, so I had to snag it as soon as I saw it on the shelf. I was also able to find Stepping Stones by Lucy Nisley. I'm not exactly sure how you pronounce her name. This is about our main character Jen, who did not want to leave the city. She ends up moving to the farm with her mom and her mom's new boyfriend, and she is not happy about it. She also did not want 2 new sisters, and I think she ends up working at this little farm stand here around this farm and maybe makes a friend or 2. The second one is called Apple something or other, and I've heard great things about this one. I've never read anything by this author, so I thought I would check it out. Next, I have 5 Worlds, The Sand Warrior, which, look at this stunning cover. This color palette of kind of more pastel, like blues and greens. I'm obsessed with it, and this is a pretty big series. I want to say there's at least 3 to 5 in this graphic novel series. Ona Lee, the clumsiest student at the Sand Dancer Academy, is a fighter with a destiny bigger than she could ever imagine. A boy from the poorest slums, and Zoo has a surprising gift and a knack for getting out of sticky situations. Star athlete Jax Amboy is beloved by an entire galaxy, but what good is that when he has no real friends? When a devastating attack forces these 3 kids to team up on an epic quest, it will take not 1, not 2, but 5 worlds to contain all the magic and adventure. So it kind of reminds me of Marvel in a way. I don't know, but I'm very intrigued and interested because I have a few friends who have read this and said it's one of their all-time favorites. And then I have this Enola Holmes graphic novel, which has 3 stories wrapped into one. I had never heard of this before, but I absolutely adore the illustration style. It was at my Barnes & Noble, and I was like, why is no one talking about this? I love Enola Holmes, and I think there's another volume that has another 3 stories, but it's super fun because she actually has little diary entries where you can help her solve the mysteries, and it just looks super cute. So it's middle grade, and if you're an Enola Holmes fan, definitely give this one a shot. I also have 1 Year at Ellesmere by Faith Erin Hicks, who wrote Pumpkinheads, which I loved. And I don't think I've read another Faith Erin Hicks since I read Pumpkinheads, and this one sounds amazing. When Juniper wins a scholarship to the prestigious Ellesmere Academy, she thinks it's going to be an academic heaven, but Ellesmere is like nothing she was expecting. Juniper is singled out as a special project targeted by the mean queen bee in her class and plagued by whispers about a mythical beast rumored to roam the forest next to the school. At this point, Juniper is just hoping to survive the year at Ellesmere. I also really love this art style and the color palette's a little more dreary. It's not super bright, but it's just super vibey. So I'm hoping to love this one. It has really great reviews. It's also very short. It just looks like a super good one, especially because I love a good academic setting. Next, I have one called Battle Royale, which I think is the most recent graphic novel I picked up by Leslie Adams. This one is more young adult than it is middle grade. This one is like the Great British Bake Off, but make it teenagers. And there's a huge kind of like twist to this, which makes the stakes even higher. So if you're interested at all in foodie books or competitions, definitely pick this one up. It had a really good message as a subplot. I was pleasantly surprised by how solid of a story this one was. The last graphic novel I have was sent to me by the publisher. It's called Danger and Other Known Risks, which I don't know anything about, but by this cover and the artwork, it just looks like such a funny, quirky story. I want to say this is young adult, especially by the age of the girl on the cover, but it says, "Here's the deal. On midnight of January 1, 2000, the world ended, but it wasn't technology that killed it. It was magic. Now years later, Earth has transformed. Magic works, sort of. People are happy, sort of. But this new world isn't stable, and unless Margaret de Pruitt and her canine pal Daisy do something about it, it'll tilt into deadly chaos. Good thing they've been training their whole lives for this and are destined to succeed." So I guess this girl and her dog are supposed to save the world. It sounds super cute, and I have not heard anyone talk about this, but the reviews are really good. Now we're gonna get to the manga that I've picked up, which I am gonna go through fairly quickly because most of these are series. The first volume that I picked up is volume 9 of Spy Family. I don't think I've even read volume 8 yet, so I definitely have a couple that I need to catch up on, but I love this series. It is hilarious. It's kind of like a found family trope of a guy that's a spy. He hires a lady to be his wife. She ends up turning out to actually be an assassin. They adopt this little girl named Anya, who's the cutest, most hilarious girl of all time. The show is also out on Hulu, so if you just want a little taste test to see if you would like this series, you can definitely check that out on Hulu. I also have Beyond the Clouds, The Girl Who Fell from the Sky, which is volume 3, and if you love Studio Ghibli, you need to pick this up. The art style is so cute and so precious. It reads a little bit more middle grade, but it's about this girl who basically falls out of the sky. She has a broken wing, and then we have this boy who's studying to be an apprentice. He's kind of like a mechanic, so it's a little bit sci-fi-ish, but also fantasy, but not like super crazy world building. And it's just a sweet friendship story between these two, and it's just perfection. It's so cute, and it's such an easy read, especially if you're trying to get into manga or you are a beginner into manga. I definitely recommend checking this one out. This next one is one that I decided to pick up on a whim that I've never seen anyone read, but it looks really quirky and really cute. Ex-Yakuza and Stray Kitten Volume 1. It's about this guy who used to be a gangster basically, and he finds this kitten, decides to adopt it. This is just gonna be a cute, quirky, funny story that I know is just gonna make me laugh out loud. The next one I have is The Haunted Bookstore, Gateway to a Parallel Universe. It says, Kaori lives in a bookstore where the boundaries between the mortal realm and the spirit realm are blurred. She spends her days in peace selling books to otherworldly beings alongside her adoptive father, Spirit himself. But all of that is disrupted when a self-proclaimed exorcist stumbles into this ghostly utopia. Can Kaori embrace her better nature and help a man who's vowed revenge against all spirits find his way back home? This sounds like the perfect, cozy, cute bookstore vibe that I feel like any of us as book nerds would love. The next book I have is Shadow House Volume 1, which also looks really cute, but really creepy. In the depths of a murky mansion lives a group of enigmatic nobles known as the Shadow Family. With no visible features to speak of, these mysterious aristocrats employ living dolls to act as their faces. Kate and Emilico are one such pair of mistress and servant dwelling in their own little world and learning from each other bit by bit every new day. But in a house of locked doors, living according to rules from no apparent source, how long can their blissfully peaceful existence truly last? This sounds like it has so many deep hidden meanings aside from it just being like a spooky vibe. So I'm really curious to see what the mystery is going to be in this book, as well as the source that they're taking these rules from. Sounds really crazy to me. Well, those are all of the 46 books that I've accumulated in the past few months, which is a big variety. Ones that I feel like will be good to keep for the fall season, but ones that I feel like will also be really fun to read this summer. So I hope you found a new recommendation. You should also tell me which of these books I should get to first, because I have no clue where to start. But thank you so much for watching this video. I love you guys so much, and I will see you in my next video.